Today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different spin on pot roast. What's different about it? Well, first off, I'm using this. So what is this cut of beef that I'm using? This is a Wagyu bottom round roast. This was sent to me by Wagyu, which is a family-owned ranch in Texas. All their beef is pasture-raised, hormone-free, antibiotic-free. You can see the terrific marbling in this. It's just gorgeous, all the fat veins running through here. And you may be wondering, well, why am I gonna do this like a pot roast? Well, it's actually gonna be a skillet roast. Same process, but in a cast iron skillet. And what I told them when they asked what sort of cut of beef would I like to try is I said, I want a rump roast. Well, they call this a rump roast, bottom end roast. It's from the same part of the animal. The traditional rump roast is a little bit thicker here, but this is going to be delicious in this skillet roast. Now, if you want to check out Wagyu's products, I'll put a link down in the description, and there's also a coupon code there, CWR. If you use that coupon code and you order anything from them, you get 20% off your order. But let's get into making this Wagyu skillet roast. First thing I want to do, simple seasoning on here, salt and pepper. Got some coarse kosher salt going on. About a week ago, I did a Wagyu flat iron steak that Wagyu had sent me, and that was phenomenal. I don't have any doubts this is going to be as wonderful. Get some cracked black pepper on here. Let's turn this over and be generous with the salt. Cuts of beef like this love salt. Some more pepper here. All right, I'm gonna let this rest for about 5 minutes just to sort of absorb that salt. Then we're gonna head over to the cast iron skillet at the stove and start on this Wagyu skillet roast. All right, I've got my cast iron pan here over medium-high heat right now. We'll be turning that down in a bit, but I just wanna add maybe a tablespoon of olive oil. Just gonna let that spread around here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get our Wagyu roast in here to sear it up. We're gonna sear this for 2 to 3 minutes on each side. All right, we're gonna go ahead and turn our roast over. Okay, we're gonna temporarily remove our roast from the pan. We're gonna add a medium onion that has been rough chopped and a medium shallot that's been fine chopped. We're going to reduce the heat down to about medium. Just going to let these onions and shallots cook down for a few minutes here. All right, we're going to go ahead and add a 1/4 cup of red wine. And I just want to make sure these are distributed around the bottom of this pan here, because we're going to be adding our Wagyu roast back in here. I'm going to give it a nice bed of shallots and onions to rest on. All right, we're going to put our roast back in here. We're going to reduce the heat down to just about medium-low, and I'm going to add some beef stock now, some beef broth. This is a lower sodium beef stock. You can use whatever you want. We're going to fill this cast iron pan up to about halfway up the roast. That was maybe 16 to 20 ounces of beef broth, beef stock, whichever you have. Okay, I'm just gonna adjust my heat now until I get this to a simmer. Okay, we've got a good simmer starting here. I'm gonna monitor the temperatures on this to make sure that we don't get into a real boil, because what we're doing here is we're gonna be braising this. I'm gonna go ahead and get my lid on, and we're gonna let this cook. So we're just gonna let that Wagyu bottom round roast slowly braise, and in about an hour, we're gonna check it for tenderness. Temperature is not gonna be an issue here. We're cooking this, it's gonna be well done, just like any pot roast would be. But it's that Wagyu flavor, that fat, that marbling, that is gonna make this skillet roast special. So I'll see you back here in about an hour. All right, we've been going for about an hour now. Let's take the lid off, check and see how our Wagyu roast is doing. I can tell you it smells great. I want to check here just for tenderness at this point. I do not expect this to be done and tender at this point. One way to tell with a pot roast is stick a fork in it and turn it. If it twists and pulls away easily, it's tender and ready to go. But no, this still has more to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the lid back on, and we'll be checking this again, probably in about 30 to 45 minutes. All right, it's been another 45 minutes. Let's go ahead and check this roast, and I'm probably gonna turn it over at this point also. Looking good. You know, we're not gonna be done. This is still gonna be at least another hour or two. You can just start to see some more of that turn in there. Just loosening up a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, turn our roast over. And adjust our heat here. And at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add a cup of carrots. These are baby carrots that have been chopped in half. Just gonna move these around in here, get them down on the sides. I'm also gonna add some celery. These are 2 celery stalks that have been chopped up. All right, I'm gonna cover it. We're gonna go another 45 minutes and give it a check. All right, we've been going for just about a total of 3 hours now. Let's have a look. It's looking really nice. Let's give another little check here and see how we're coming along tenderness-wise. Right in the center. And there, you can just start seeing it start to tear easily. That's our first indication that we're getting closer. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over again. Adjust my heat, make sure we keep moving. Gonna get the lid back on, and we're gonna go for about another hour like this. I may check it after about 45 minutes, and then we'll be in the final stages of this Wagyu Skillet Roast. All right, we are a little over 4 hours now, so I wanna give this a check, because I think we're about ready to move on to the next step. All right, let's give a check here. I know the middle was looking pretty good. Yep, that's turning good. The ends are starting to turn good. Yeah, all right, we're doing good here. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna remove the roast and set it aside, cover it with foil, and we're gonna add our potatoes to the liquid. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this bone section off first. Go ahead and get the rest of this Wagyu roast out of here. Go ahead and increase my heat on here a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and add about a pound of small red potatoes here. Not doing a lot of potatoes today. You could do larger ones, but I really like these small, individual, bite-size almost red potatoes. Stir them around in here. All right, we're going to let this simmer for 20 to 30 minutes. That should be plenty of time for these red potatoes to soften. And then we're going to move on to thickening all of this liquid into a nice gravy. All right, let's check our potatoes here. They've been going for about 35 minutes actually. Oh yeah, nice and tender. The carrots are nice and tender. I'm gonna go ahead and transfer the vegetables from here. The carrots, the celery, the potatoes, and some of the onions. There will be onions left in this broth here that we're going to thicken and turn into some gravy. So my heat is still fairly low, as you can see. And what I'm gonna do now, while I'm continually stirring and whisking here, is I'm gonna add a cornstarch mixture. This is about a tablespoon of cornstarch that's been dissolved in 2 tablespoons of cold water. Just gonna keep stirring this. Okay, so I just wanna taste this right now, see if we need any seasoning. I already added a little black pepper, I'm gonna add a little more. We're gonna take this off here, and we're gonna start getting our Wagyu Skillet Roast ready. All right, before we start assembling our pot roast platter with those vegetables and the potatoes and the gravy, I wanna slice this because I like that presentation of pot roast, where you have the slices laid out on the platter, the vegetables and potatoes around it, and the gravy on top. So let's just cut into this. It is just falling apart, as you can see here. You're gonna have some slices and some chunks. There we have some nice slices. Let's go ahead and plate this up, get the vegetables, potatoes on there, the gravy, and have a taste. All right, let's go ahead and get some of our potatoes on here. Oh, these potatoes are steamy hot still here. Let's get some of our carrots and our celery, pieces of onion. Let's get some gravy on here. Now you can thicken this gravy up as much as you want. I don't really like a thick gravy on pot roast. I prefer that on like mashed potatoes, but this looks good to me. And one final thing that I like to put on here are some sliced pepperoncinis. I just love that little bite of a mild pepper flavor. You can even put this in the pot roast when you're cooking it if you want. Gives a little acidity because these are pickled pepperoncinis. There we go. Wagyu skillet roast with carrots, potatoes, onions, a nice gravy, some pepperoncini sliced on top. It's time to taste. All right, here we go. A piece of this Wagyu skillet roast. Now, why did I call it skillet roast instead of pot roast? Well, it's in a skillet, it's not in a pot. I could have just as easily done it in a pot, but I wanted control as I was making this. I've never used a Wagyu cut for pot roast before, and that's why I was checking it every 45 minutes or so. Normally in a pot roast, you put everything in there, you put it in for 4 hours, 5 hours, at the end everything's done. Maybe you add the potatoes 2 or 3 hours in. But with this, I really wanted to watch this meat and see how it was developing with the tenderness, because with that fat in there, it could have cooked slower or it could have cooked quicker. I didn't know. As it turned out, it really took just about the same amount of time. Let's have a taste. Oh, super beefy flavor in this. We didn't add anything except that beef stock on the outside, the red wine. We didn't use any rubs that had any other flavors. We just used salt and pepper. So really the beef flavor from this is really coming through. And that makes sense when you have a really marbled piece of meat like Wagyu. You are gonna get that beef flavor embedded throughout the meat as that fat renders, and this is no different. I just want to mention again that this cut of Wagyu was sent to me from Wagyu. Again, their information will be in the description below. If you decide you want to order something from them, use the coupon code CWR. That way you'll get 20% off your order. And I've got to tell you, for a pot roast, this is a real treat. This is not a super expensive cut of Wagyu, which is one of the reasons I wanted to try it. I wanted to see if I could get some great flavor out of one of the lesser expensive pieces. And I gotta tell you, it worked. And here I'm gonna try some with some of that pepperoncini on there. Just love that little acidic bite with pepperoncini. Going with beef, I really do love that. Can't forget the potatoes. What are you gonna say? Those small red potatoes cook so well. They're so creamy inside when they're done. Nothing's mushy. And that was one of the reasons I added the potatoes more near the end. Those small potatoes, if I had put them in at the beginning, they would have been mashed potatoes by the end. They would have just dissolved. Let's try carrot. I love cooked carrots. I love carrots in stew. My wife is over here behind the camera trying not to gag. She hates cooked carrots, but I love them. So yeah, I know it sounded strange. Wagyu pot roast basically, but I gotta tell you, it turned out terrific. Super flavor, better than any pot roast I've ever had. And if you want to make pot roast special for someone, this is really an easy way to do it and a great way to go.